Oh man, it's the grab bag.
I know I haven't been making videos for like a week. Been busy, been crazy. A lot of stuff going on. I mean, just look at the hair popping off the side of my head. Alright, so, anyways, I wanted to make this video for almost 2 weeks, but I haven't had time to do it. So, here I am, gonna make it today. And enough preamble. About 2 weeks ago, there was a gaming journalist site that decided to tweet something incredibly stupid. And it was something along the lines of, when will Final Fantasy get a non-comedic black character? And it made me stop, and I mean, everybody immediately was like, Barrett Wallace. And it's like, yes, Barrett Wallace was an incredibly deep character. And if these idiots at that gaming journalist site didn't see how much more than just a comic relief character he was, it's ridiculous. But real quick, I'm going to jump over to Saz from 13. Just because he has an afro with a chocobo that pops out of it doesn't mean he was a comic relief character, considering that he was the only one of the characters in that game that was actually good. His whole journey was the fact that he wanted to save his son, and that's why he became a Lassie or Falsey. I can't even remember. I don't want to go back to that game ever again. Um, but it was trash. But Saz was the only good character. Now, to jump back to Final Fantasy VII and Barrett Wallace. If you think just because he's supposed to be like a Mr. T kind of character, you think that he's just a comic relief, especially with his swearing, and, it's like you didn't really pay attention to his story. So we're going to jump back to the very beginning. Barrett lived in a small coal mining town that wasn't too far away from where Golden Saucer was being built. And the town was relatively poor. Their main export was, coal. And then Shinra comes in and builds a power plant nearby. And some people want to go work for Shinra, some people don't. And then the town is in even worse condition because their main export is no longer useful. So Barrett and his best friend Dine decide they're going to try to do something. They're going to sabotage the Mako reactor, which, it's kind of interesting. They go in to do it, they fail, and they are being shot at by, members of. Man, my cats are going nuts. They're being shot at by members of Shinra, and Dine slips and falls off a cliff. Barrett runs over to catch him, reaches his hand down, and that's when, they get shot. And that's how Barrett loses his hand. So, nothing really comical there. His best friend, Dine, falls down the side of the cliff, and for most of the game, you think that Dine is dead until you get to Golden Saucer, but that's a little bit later in the story. So, then, Dine's child is left alone. So Barrett adopts her because it's his best friend's kid. And he wasn't able to save his best friend. And a large portion of everything he does is about protecting her and giving her a future. A future that Dine was not available to have. And if you still think it's a comical character, I mean, right there, that's a huge, huge thing. So then you go a little bit deeper. Barrett does wind up forming a crew to attack Mako reactors. He moves to Midgar because that's where they would best be able to do it. And he wants to defeat Shinra because of everything that happened to him, his town, and Dine. And then it just gets even worse because, Shinra attacks back and drops the Sector 7 plate, crushing everyone inside the sector, to death. And thankfully, Aerith's mother was smart enough to get Marlene out of Sector 7, which is why, she's fine. They go live in calm. Well, Barrett goes on this journey at that point in the game. Much later on, you get to Golden Saucer, and you're thrown into the desert prison. And while you're in the desert prison, you find out about Dine. Dine is still alive, but he is completely mentally gone, just destroyed. He's a shell of a man, and he's just filled with hatred. And all he wants to do is basically kill everyone, but especially he wants to kill Barrett. And then you finally get through to him that Marlene is alive, and it shatters Dine. And instead of going to face his daughter for the things that he's done, well, he commits self-deletion, because I know the other word you can't really say on YouTube. And Barrett watches his best friend die a second time. And it's crushing. You can't tell me that this is just some comical thing, that he's not a serious character. It probably has one of the more in-depth stories from beginning to end. And it's crushing, you know? And of course, in the end, Barrett does help save the world, and he reunites with Marlene. And then, of course, if you're watching Advent Children, he still is taking care of her. And, you know, overall, his story is much deeper. In fact, he's one of my favorite Final Fantasy characters just because of how many layers he has. Yeah, your first introduction to him in Final Fantasy VII, he's cussing up a storm. He's being a braggart. He's messing around with Cloud, trying to act like, you know, he's tougher than Cloud. And then you start peeling away these layers, and you find that he's a, you know, troubled man. He's been hurt, and everything he's doing is because he wants to save the world for Marlene. And then, of course, much later on in the game, when you're going through the huge materia quests, one of them is going to involve a train carrying one of the, you know, great materias, one of the, you know, extra large materias, and they have to get it because it's being transported on a train that's going to go right through the coal mining town, and it will literally kill everybody there, and you have to stop the train. And yeah, it's great. And my opinion is Barrett is one of the most serious, best characters in the entire franchise. You know, maybe not as high up as Vivi, but definitely in the top 10. And he is my go-to party when I play the original Final Fantasy VII is Cloud, Sid, and Barrett. And the three of them are my favorite characters in the game. I love the whole story. And I mean, there's a lot of trauma in Final Fantasy VII. A lot. Each of the characters has quite a bit when you go through all of it, and it might actually be an underlying theme, is struggling with trauma and getting past it. And it's a fantastic game, and don't let anybody, including some idiot gaming journalist, try to dissuade you on that.